Hello and welcome to Austin Real Estate Experts, where each week we discuss Austin's dynamic real estate market and showcase some of Austin's finest homes. We have a great panel today. We're going to talk Austin real estate with Robert Dzorzhev from Amherst, Greg Young, co-host, brokered Austin Real Estate Experts,
Glad to be here today.
and Sylvia Ward-Carden with American Pacific Mortgage.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, glad you could be here. So I want to start off, it's very purposeful that we have you here with us today, Robert. You are involved in a project that we're all going to be working on together.
Yeah.
And we mentioned you're with Amherst. Tell us a little bit about your role there, and then we'll talk about this project.
Let's do it. So thank you for having me on. Super excited to talk about our new project that we're all going to be working on together and have been for the last few months. And so I lead strategy and investments at Amherst on the development side for new build-to-rent and for-sale housing. And we also have a company called Studio Built, which is sort of the home builder arm that will actually be developing the homes in Lockhart. And so, we're super excited to be working with the Austin Real Estate Experts and American Pacific Mortgage on selling some really beautiful homes in Lockhart.
When you reached out to us about this project and Lockhart, Greg and I were really excited because we feel like the Lockhart community has been underserved for a while.
Yeah.
And as consumers are looking for places where they could own the type of home that they want to own and still have it be somewhat affordable and reachable, right. It's just the right place at the right time, I think.
Yeah, agreed. And very convenient to a lot of things with 130 or I-30 going straight through it. The airport's close by. There's a lot of Tesla and all kinds of businesses.
Yeah, I mean, that really is sort of our original thesis for how we thought about Lockhart. When you sort of look at Austin and, it's had incredible growth, right, over the last decade,
right.
Sort of staggering. And so when you look at where Austin has real room for growth, I think you look at 130, and that toll road is really where I think Austin is expecting sort of the growth to continue. Mm-hmm. And so, as you mentioned, Tesla is on 130. The new Samsung factory, I think phase 1 is sort of done, and now we're on to the next $45 billion, phase 2. Wow. All of that is sort of getting built along 130, and it's becoming this new artery for job growth. That's and right. Our view originally on Lockhart was that Lockhart will be a great beneficiary of all of this job growth and all the future growth in Austin. And particularly from an affordable perspective, right? And that's really the underlying thesis about how we thought about, coming to Lockhart and doing this project. I think Lockhart may be the last sort of suburb of Austin where, you can buy a new home for less than $300,000.
Right. Yeah. And the barbecue. You can't say Lockhart without talking barbecue.
Can you say artery and barbecue in the same
yes.
In the same segment?
Yes.
I don't know.
That is the segue.
Maybe cross purposes there. But really, we do feel like 130 is going to be the next growth corridor, mm-hmm. right? All the way to Georgetown and to the southeast Lockhart.
Right.
And so people that buy along that area over the next 10 years, I think the people that are the early adopters, the pioneers, are going to win.
That's right.
Because it's going to be so accessible and so easy to traverse.
Right.
And so I think forward-thinking people that want to harness the affordability and the locale will make out very, very well.
Mm-hmm. And this particular community happens to be very close to 130, which is a benefit.
Yeah, it's got great access. And I mean, to your point, I think you look at places like Kyle, right, which have had fantastic growth along I-35. And, commuting into town from Kyle takes a long time now, even though it's pretty close from sort of a mileage perspective. It could take you an hour to get to downtown. And Lockhart, interestingly, with the 130 access, you can get into downtown in 30 minutes, during rush hour.
Yeah.
And so it's a little
right.
bit further, but it takes,
less
less
time.
time.
It really is a
Yeah.
cup of coffee away. I used to
Yeah.
say that about Kyle, but now it's like a
Pot of coffee.
yeah, it's like a big gulp of coffee away.
And I hate to admit this, but I'm unfortunately one of the folks with the lead foot out there on the
Yeah.
Austin freeways, and I'll say 130 toll is really where I can be myself.
Yeah,
I
it's like the Autobahn.
I think it's got the highest speed limit in all of Texas. I
Yeah.
think it's like 85 miles an
85,
hour going down there, and there have been times
Which
where
means you can go 10 over, right?
Yeah, 5.
right
5 is safe.
right. There have been a few times where I'm looking at my speedometer and I don't realize how fast I'm going, and then I look over and a semi, goes way past me.
Yeah.
Goes flying by you.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Telling you to move over. Let's talk about the community that Amherst is building. Now they're going to build with their studio built project. So these are homes that are constructed under building code, off-site in a controlled environment,
Right.
and a lot of discipline in that process. And then they're going to be placed at the new community, which we're calling what?
Firefly.
Firefly. I love that. Love that.
Yeah, and
That'll
I think
create a buzz.
Firefly, I think the idea behind sort of the soul of, or the idea behind Firefly is, sort of emphasizing the little things, and that really, we don't realize it, but plays such a big part in our life. Sort of getting that cup of coffee in the morning and sitting out on your patio before the day starts. It's that sort of that little moment that we really cherish, and that's sort of the idea behind the name and the soul that we're trying to build here.
Yeah, your theme is very compelling. I remember when you first told me about it, and I thought, wow, this is really kind of a unique opportunity here for folks.
I do remember that conversation.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit selling you.
You
what
were.
we were doing because you were like, well, Lockhart and new builder in town, and I think when you got excited about it, it sort of spread.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think to your comment on community. Lockhart is just it's like that perfect little Texas town that has that entrepreneurial spirit,
Right.
And it makes it so unique, because there are a lot of other small towns that I think have really gotten big, the Bastrup's, the Mainers, the Kyles,
Right.
and
I think we can all agree Lockhart has sort of that flavor that makes it a little bit different,
Yeah. Yeah.
it does have its small town charm. It really does. We're doing something unique out there with modular construction. These are homes built to local building code. So same as other production home builders you might see around town, same codes, but
Same inspection processes.
yes, yeah, but in controlled conditions, off-site, people, being able to control inventories, minimize waste, really work on the value engineering. And that was one of the things that excited me about this process. These homes are crafted by employees,
right?
not subcontractors. They're all vested and they're all part of a team. And there's this synergistic aspect that does not exist in site-built homes where you can have different crews overlapping each other.
And the weather.
Yeah, the weather.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, we can't start this week. We can't start.
Right.
We got to wait for it to dry out.
Right.
It's too wet. It's too cold.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just so much more controlled in so many ways.
It's too hot. We can't get on a roof. It's 109. It's. But working in controlled conditions, you can minimize waste. You are working with employees. There's less variables like weather. There are really so many advantages to it. So we're excited at the reception that this home product is going to have in the marketplace.
Right, very much.
We think it's going to be a little bit of a disruptor. DC power.
Yeah.
That's going to save significant money on energy bills
Right, right.
and affordability. Sylvia, American Pacific Mortgage is going to be one of the preferred lenders for the Firefly project, and you'll have the full array of loan products out there. Is that
That's
right?
right. Yeah, and this price point is perfect too for a lot of first-time home buyers. We've got so many products available, from zero down payment assistance to minimum down. Don't have to have perfect credit. I talk to people all the time that think they have to have the perfect credit score and at least 20% down, and that hasn't been the case for years. This particular community is going to be great for programs just like that.
I'm excited about that. And interest rates are doing good things right now.
I know, we're excited. Finally.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Finally.
You finally made
It-
this happen, Sylvia.
I know it took me a little while, but I finally got through to the Fed Chairman, Jerome Powell, and he's decided it is very, very likely that next month we're going to see some interest rate drops, and how that translates to the mortgage world. We're going to see more people come into the market, which is going to it's going to feel good. It impacts affordability, of course. When interest rates are lower, then payments are lower, and so that's really exciting to us as well. I do expect that we're going to see quite a surge in new buyers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're excited as well.
Yeah.
We've talked recently about the roller coaster ride that our housing has felt here in Austin. And
Yeah.
Average prices kind of settling in and relaxing just a little bit. And our prices are really kind of at historical appreciation norms. Big run up during the COVID years, kind of eased back down, and we were way too hot, and our market had to get back in balance. The last couple of months have been pretty steady on prices, so we feel like this is the right intersection of interest rates and affordability, and very likely the right place for many of you to visit. And when are we hoping to have our first homes on the ground out there, Robert?
I think the plan is at the end of the year here in November, December. I think we're ready to get going. So
Excellent.
Perfect timing.
Good, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, excited about that. There have been some changes in the real estate industry.
A few.
Yeah.
A few. Yeah. not only pricing and all of that, but on our side as well as realtors.
Yeah, and folks, you may have heard that there was a large settlement with the National Association of Realtors and the Department of Justice, all aimed at trying to make the real estate process more transparent and more even-handed for buyers to deal with their agents, really understand the services they're getting and the costs that are involved. And it's really changed the way things work fundamentally. Certainly believe that the intent is really good. And I hope that it's going to spell meaningful, positive changes for consumers. But there are some things that home buyers need to be aware of. No longer can a realtor show a home to a buyer client without a signed buyer's representation agreement.
Right.
So under the terms of that settlement, any licensed realtor, so a member of the local board or state board or national association, has to have a signed agreement. Now the purpose of that is to make sure that they know exactly how their agent is getting compensated, what services they should be able to expect from their agent, and just make that process more transparent.
Yeah.
Real estate fees have always been negotiable,
Right.
always, forever and ever. But I think this was something that they felt might help the process be even more transparent.
And it's not really new. The requirement is new, but we've
right.
always had buyer's rep agreements, and we've always encouraged our agents to use them because technically that's what sets up the fiduciary relationship.
That's right.
Because otherwise, in our state anyway, realtors would be representing the seller without having a buyer's representation agreement in place. So it's always been important. It just hasn't always been used. I like the fact that they made it a blanket arrangement across the board and a requirement for everyone.
So
with
now
this.
everybody's working under the same rules.
Right.
So if you want to see a property, maybe you went to a consumer website, or maybe you drove by and saw a sign and you want to view a property, and the agent says, well, I need you to sign this buyer representation agreement. That is the new normal, folks. Now, the length of that agreement could vary. The terms of that agreement can vary. You can talk about what the compensation looks like. Sometimes the seller will pay, and that will take care of the fee. Sometimes the buyers themselves might pay the agent directly. So that whole process has been slightly disrupted, but hopefully in a positive manner. Now, over at Firefly, I know the seller has committed to
Buyer agent.
to pay buyer agent real estate commissions for represented buyers, and I think the benefit to a buyer that has an agent is knowing that if the seller is going to take care of that fee, that they don't have to come out of their own pocket to pay a real estate commission
Exactly.
for those professional services.
Exactly.
And sometimes when you're coming up with money for a down payment and closing cost, an extra, whatever it is, in real estate fee, flat fee, or percentage out of pocket,
Right.
is something else to account for. So knowing that the seller is willing to take that on,
Right.
Takes that out of the equation
Yeah.
for all these buyers.
It
Yeah.
ensures affordability. Yeah.
That's right.
Or more affordability anyway.
Another sweeping change is, as agents, when we have a listing, we can no longer advertise in the multiple listing service. And that's for those of you that aren't familiar with the MLS, the multiple listing service is a network that member agents of their local association use to share and exchange information about properties they have for sale. And we used to advertise the commission that we would pay the buyer's broker on there. And under the terms of the settlement, we will no longer advertise that.
Right.
And so it does create a lot of phone calls on our listings asking, well, is the seller paying a fee? Do we have to negotiate that with an offer, or have they pre-agreed to pay a fee, or does the buyer need to pay that themselves? So
Right.
there's lots more communication, which I think is a positive thing.
Yes.
But it's a different process.
Well, and something else that these changes are going to do is elevate the level of buyers agents
That's right.
out there. And I think that probably is a good thing for the consumer. The days of just being door openers are gone.
That's right.
Buyers agents are really going to have to be able to explain their value proposition, which I believe that I don't think the necessity of having a buyer's agent is going to go away. I think it's very important, but I think that the ones that perhaps were not as educated or that didn't spend as much time with their clients and truly just glorified door openers, those folks are probably not going to survive.
If you're not adding value to the process,
Right.
then you're probably not long for the real estate industry.
Right. Right.
But I think you're right, Greg. I think it's going to challenge and raise the bar on the level of professionalism and the follow through. It's no longer just show up. I was the procuring cause of sale. I'm getting paid.
Right.
And it shouldn't be that way.
No. No, it
Agents should earn their fee
Yeah.
and carefully help their clients navigate the process and be knowledgeable, at least on a primary level about mortgage lending, about the escrow and title insurance process, about home inspections.
Our contracts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I mean our contracts have not gotten simpler.
No.
They're somewhat complex.
Yeah.
And while we're not attorneys, we do need to be able to understand the document that governs the transfer of real estate and be able to answer basic questions about it.
Right. Absolutely.
So big changes, and hopefully this just raises the bar and provides a greater level of service for consumers out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Matt, I 100% agree with what you guys are saying about the value of the buyer's agent, which is sort of why you mentioned earlier that, we're very committed to making sure that, that there's appropriate compensation, for the buyer's agent, that are really educating the consumers on the unique product that we're going to deliver here.
Right.
And so we're 100% in agreement with sort of how you're characterizing the value there.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I don't want to go too far into editorializing the topic because there's plenty of that on Facebook. But my own view is that at least the clients that I'm working with currently haven't seen a whole lot of change. Where sellers could now say, "Hey, I no longer want to offer." It's always been negotiable, but this has made it easier and more transparent for sellers to decide not to pay buyer's agent commissions. Yeah. And it's opened up a conversation. But in my own experience, the sellers that I'm working with have all said, no, we want to pay that because we don't want to, and I think we need to be clear here because you hear this and it's important that it's said the right way. We are ethically, as licensed realtors, we are ethically required to show somebody any property they want to see, and it cannot be tied to commission, okay? So that's not where I think that we're disadvantaging a seller by not offering the compensation. I think where we're disadvantaging them is that it can make that property less affordable for the buyer if the buyer is in an agreement to compensate their agent. So again, it's not bad either way, but I think that you're just opening your property up to more potential buyers by offering that.
Well, to sort of add on to that, I mean, there are so many choices for the consumer today, particularly in Austin, right? A market that has grown so much. There's so many new homes available for sale, and there's a lot of value in having sort of that guide that has taken the time to educate themselves on truly the options and sort of the nuances of those options,
right?
And we think that's incredibly valuable, right? Because our team has spent so much time in really pouring our souls into this project, and we really hope that the buyer's representatives are able to take the time to really understand the nuances of what makes our project unique, because it's difficult for a consumer to sort of see everything out there and very quickly come to that conclusion.
Something else that's interesting about your company, and you're better speaking about it than I am for sure, but you're not the traditional home builder that we deal with day to day, and there's nothing wrong with traditional home builders, but we've worked with and for home builders for in your case like 50, 70 years. I don't know. In my case, 20 years. Yeah. But generally all they do is build homes. You know what I mean? And the executives generally come up from the construction side of the business. You guys, you're huge, and you guys have a lot of research, and you've done a lot of research,
yes.
And I've been impressed by that, and so it shows. Obviously, you have the building part down, but you also have the research and development part down.
Well, we appreciate the compliment, but yeah, I mean, there's certainly people with home building expertise that sit on the team, but there's a lot of placemaking expertise as well. And for example, at our project at Firefly, what we've tried to do is we've tried to provide a competitively priced product that really offers the consumer a lot of customization. And allow folks to make the homes unique to themselves. I think we have a dozen different ways you can customize the home that, it's very difficult for other home builders in our competitive set to really, compete on the same level again, because you mentioned we're doing a lot of the work with our own employees at the studio built site. And so, for example, I've met the folks that are making the custom cabinetry that goes into the homes. Which is an incredibly expensive value proposition for a traditional sort of builder that hires subcontractors, but we're doing that ourselves. And I've met those people, right? And you sort of know who's building it, and you know the quality of the craftsmanship, and it's the same every time. And so there's some sort of unique features from that perspective that is sort of a differentiator.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Well, if you're going to innovate and somewhat disrupt in the marketplace, sometimes you need to do it with different minds, different schools of thought. Experience is certainly valuable, and insight from within the industry, but also bringing in some creative, why not this way mindset instead of just retreads and people saying, well, we'll continue to do it the way we've always done it. Well, then you'll continue to get what you've always got, right?
And your value, and you guys have made sure that what you're offering is really a notch above the competition. We never talk bad about competition, right? We really don't. We respect our competition, regardless of the market. But
How can you do more for less?
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. And it's very obvious and in your face when you look at your product.
No, we're super excited. I mean, look, outside of the houses too, as you sort of mentioned, I mean, we have people with really mixed use commercial development backgrounds. And so we don't just sort of have this project that's the 145 single family homes, but we also have the 6-acre parcel in front of it where we're sort of trying to build a more of a community, right? A walkable retail project that we hope will really amenitize the homes behind it. Where you can wake up in the morning, you can walk down the street, and there's a coffee shop sort of at West San Antonio Street. And we're talking to a lot of different groups right now about the prospect of leasing space in that commercial parcel. We have Edge Realty, fantastic leasing team, garnering interest. But with 5,000 homes sort of in the pipeline in Lockhart, there's a lot of really interesting, cool retailers that are interested in that space and really hope to make it part of the amenity package.
Yes,
Right.
the vibe. It's going to be a vibe.
Exactly.
Right?
A really complementary piece to Firefly. Firefly coming fall 2024. Really excited. We'll be involved in marketing that project, so we'll all be working together. We'll be talking about this some more as well. Really glad that we could have this conversation today. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next Sunday on the Austin Real Estate Experts.